One winter evening, dark clouds rolled across the sky, and snow began to fall over a small town. At first, the snowflakes drifted gently through the air like feathers. But as the night grew colder, the wind picked up. Soon, the gentle snowfall became a fierce snowstorm. The streets emptied. The parks became silent. Everyone hurried inside where it was warm. Everyone except one tiny kitten. Beneath a wooden park bench sat a small orange kitten no bigger than a loaf of bread. His fur was damp. His paws were cold. And he was completely alone. The little kitten had wandered too far from the place where he usually slept. Now the snow covered the ground in every direction. Nothing looked familiar anymore. The kitten curled into a tiny ball beneath the bench and tried to stay warm. The wind howled through the park. Snow piled around him. His little body trembled. "Meow," he cried softly. But nobody heard him. The storm only grew stronger. The kitten looked up at the dark sky and wondered if anyone would ever find him. Hours seemed to pass. The town was quiet. The snow continued falling. The kitten felt tired. Very tired. Just as he began to close his eyes, he heard something. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps. The kitten lifted his head. Through the falling snow, he saw a figure walking slowly down the sidewalk. It was an elderly man wearing a thick coat, a wool hat, and a long scarf. The man was carrying a bag of groceries on his way home. As he passed the park bench, he stopped. For a moment, he stood completely still. Then he turned his head. Did I hear something? He wondered. The kitten gathered all the strength he had left. Meow! The tiny cry was almost lost in the wind. But the man heard it. He carefully set down his groceries and looked beneath the bench. There, staring back at him with wide, frightened eyes, was the smallest kitten he had ever seen. "Oh my," the man whispered. "You poor little thing." The kitten tried to stand, but his legs wobbled. The man gently reached beneath the bench and wrapped his hands around the tiny cat. The kitten was freezing. Without hesitation, the man tucked the kitten inside his coat. Immediately, the little cat felt something he had not felt all day. Warmth. For the first time since the storm began, he stopped shaking. "It's all right," the man said softly. "You're safe now." The kitten listened to the steady beat of the man's heart as they walked through the snow-covered streets. It was the safest he had felt in a very long time. When they reached the man's house, warm golden light shone through the windows. The man opened the door and stepped inside. Everything felt cozy. There was a fireplace crackling nearby. A soft blanket rested on a chair. The whole house smelled warm and welcoming. The man carefully wrapped the kitten in a dry towel. Then he placed a small bowl of food and water beside him. The kitten had never eaten so quickly in his life. When he finished, he looked up at the man. The man smiled. The kitten purred. It was the first purr either of them had heard all night. As the storm continued outside, the kitten curled up beside the fireplace. His tiny eyes slowly closed. For the first time in days, he slept peacefully. The next morning, sunlight sparkled across the fresh snow. The storm had passed. Day after day, the kitten grew stronger. He chased toy mice across the living room. He watched birds through the window. He followed the man from room to room. Before long, the two became the best of friends. The man was no longer lonely, and the kitten was never alone again. Sometimes, on snowy evenings, they would sit together by the window and watch the snow fall gently outside. And each time, the kitten would curl up a little closer beside his friend. Because he knew something important. Even during the coldest storms, kindness can lead us home. Do you love kittens? Then don't forget to like and subscribe. There are many more adorable kitten adventures waiting for you here in Storybook Hollow. See you in the next story.